Brakadea Hawa, Brakadea Washai, Brakadea Hawa, Brakadea Washai, Brakadea Hawa, Brakadea Hawa, Bashim Yawashai, Bahashem Chakadash. No belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there, you Akim to Zadakim, that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. On the pre-Shemon, and this week's topic is going to be entitled, A Majority of Americans Are in Debt and It Hurts. And this was inspired by a video that the brother put in the chat. There was a documentary and it was pretty much going on into the debt here in America. Like, you know, people, like, let's say you're making a lot of money. On a bounce of probability, you have to go to college. And another bounce of probability, you have to borrow a federal loan. Student loan is a federal loan, which means it cannot be forgiven by bankruptcy. No matter what people tell you, this is far different than taking out a private loan to aid your school. I'm talking about most federal loans specifically designed towards your college education. All right, a lot of times it's federal, right? So you have to pay it back. So here it is. You know, you finally got a good paying job, but that loan is eating at your ass. All right, and cars, right? Most assets that we have, your car, your house, whatever, you had to borrow to get it, you see? And I was talking to the elder Desire one about this. You know, Benjamin, they come over here, they in the spirit of owning things. That's why they try to buy houses and such. But he was saying years ago, all right, you didn't need a credit approval to get a house. Now you even need, they even running your credit to get an apartment, which, you know, some of you brothers that go back, you know, that, you know, you might have got your apartment without nobody running your credit score, but now to look at everything, all right, they're running your credit score. Soon in the future, it's going to be something like a social score, like they show you dark mirror and stuff like that. But with the advent of the credit score, how do you build your credit? Well, guess what? You have to borrow something. You got to open something. And you might say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to get a credit card to build my credit. Or I'm going to get this. I'm going to take a loan just to build my credit. But I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to use the credit card or whatever. But guess what? Shit happens. And again, a bounce of probability, you are going to run into a situation where you don't have to use this credit. And this is what hurts the most about credit here in America. If you could master it, you'll do well in this place. In fact, I was saying back 2 years ago with the investing, it's really good to master how to handle this credit and how to utilize credit, because that's what this society is about, man. All right, we a society, we live in a Keynesian society, if I'm not mistaken, which means that the GDP is fueled by borrowing, by debt. You know, if one can master this, how to utilize debt, lend out debt and such, you'll do well. But most people can't do that, you know. And the killer part about that is the usury, man. Is the usury. You know, the more you master debt in the society, or the better your credit score is, the lower your interest rates will be, right? The lower the usury rate will be. And you could find yourself, for example, you go to buy a car, somebody that has more money than you could be paying more for his car via the interest than somebody who makes less but has superior credit. So this society incentivizes people to borrow. Now, the scriptures speak against usury, you know, because the reason, I got a credit card right now. I'm paying whatever I'm paying per month. And every time I look at the credit card statement, this shit ain't going down. Why? Because of the interest rates, you know? And I had another loan I used, and I had no interest. And I was able to take that down, and it was far more, the balance of that, than the one that I'm still paying now with smaller, with interest. So the interest traps you, man. All right, it traps you. Especially if you have multiple lines of credit with interest, you know? And the scriptures speak about a year of releasing people from debt. Every 7 years, every 49 years, a year of jubilee. And the scriptures also says, look, if the year of jubilee is coming up and your brother really need it, don't be thinking like he's scheming on you. Give it to him, you know? Which I'm sure you do have niggas scheming whatever on the year of jubilee to borrow, but let that be a curse onto them, you know? But that's the Lord. That right there shows you the type of the power the Most High is. He's a merciful power. You know, our Lord is a Lord of mercy, you know, as well as correction. Okay? But in this society, as it says, the Lord will show no mercy unto him that shows no mercy. This man, the so-called white man, is unmerciful. And he has laden the population, pursuant to the book of Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 6, laden himself with thick clay. Now, thick clay, that word there for clay in the Hebrew is aipatya, which means debt. You know, when you go to buy a car, let's say the car is $35,000, brand new. You go in $35,000 cash. They can't sell you that car because car dealerships don't sell cars. They sell loans. When you go to a car dealership, you're really just going in there to get a loan from a bank. Then they get the vehicle. Car, they don't sell. They're not selling. When was the last time you seen a car commercial that said you could buy this car in full? They always telling you about financing or leasing and then the monthly rates. Why? Because it's a monthly charge on the loan. Thankfully, through the grace of the Lord, this particular car I got has no interest on it. You know why? Because I had really outstanding credit at the time. You know, so it's good to have good credit if you could leverage it. But most people, even if you're trying to be as disciplined as possible, you're under the curses. Things happen. You get put into pressure, and when people get put into pressure, guess what they resort to? More borrowing. They resort to more borrowing. You see? So you can see how quickly the debt compiles upon a person. Like they feel like they struggle with a big stone on their back, and they just put another big stone on your back if you're trying to get it off. You know? The society is insane, man. It tells you to, you know, borrow to try to get out of debt. But, you know, on the surface level, that sounds pretty much like madness, you know? Only very few people can learn how to manipulate and do balance transfers and loan out their credit and all these things. People don't really have the time for that shit. Most people say, you know what, man, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go ahead and pick up 2 jobs. That one, the lady in the video said she's picking up 3 jobs just to not live hand to mouth. So you can see people working all these multiple jobs just to get by day, and then just to get day by day or a little bit comfortable. They're fucking slaving away. We all in it, slaving away to pay off this debt, that debt. All right, and you still feel like you're in holes, especially if you're an Israelite, because the scripture says, you pretty much got a bag with a hole in it. Because by the time you get your check or whatever, however you get your source of income, you're already thinking, and you already spent the money in your mind. And the majority of the things you spent it on is bills with interest too, credit, debt. You see. Now this is all done by design because the ultimate goal is to crash this particular system, introduce a new system, one dealing with the RFID microchip for transactions. You know, and don't be surprised if this devil bribes people. Say things like, look, man, if you get this thing implanted in you, any part of your body, and you bow down to this system, will relieve you of your debt. Or this thing could heal you. They're going to come up with different things to incentivize people to get it. And guess what? They're going to go in droves for it. Very similar to 2020 when there was making all these different offers for people to download Windows 19 on their computer. And the majority of people did. They was giving you weed, they was giving you money, you know. But right now, how many people out there would love to be forgiven of their debt? Because that's really what holds you back, you know. And a majority of our people, I guess what, are born into debt, man. All right. A lot of us grow up in a single parent house, and I guess what? That single parent to try to take care of your ass and do all this type of stuff might have used your credit. Is it irresponsible? Yes. But that's what happens to a lot of our people. See, Esau, Edomites, the so-called white man, they have a head start. All right? Because they're more financially savvy. They've been trained from the youth, and they don't start off with a lot of debt, man, on a bounce of probability. All right? They have an inheritance. All right, they have parents that pass them down houses, have parents that pass them down business, you know. had parents that when there was time to go to college, they already had a college fund saved up for them, man. So they go through college, and they're able to get out a college or business school or trade school with no debt. So whatever they start making, now they're putting that towards the next generation. And one thing I noticed with Edomites, all right, is they don't tend to really have children young. That's just based on my observation, my particular observation. I pick up a lot of people with what I do, and I notice a lot of the Edomites, when they have these kids, the kid is like very young, sometimes babies, but they're older. Why? Because they on their whole thing is, well, one, the Edomite woman is not as fertile as an Israelite woman, all right? But their whole thing is they want to be situated first. They want to have the house, all that, before they even they want to have the house and all that before they even consider having kids, So that's what they do. Now, with Jake, a lot of babies, it was an accident, a condom bust, or in other words, it's not really prepared as much as Esau's situation is, man. All right, so you have a kid born into a household where the parents don't even really know if they can take care of the kid. So guess what? They're gonna borrow. They're gonna get into lines of credit. All right, might fuck up the kid's credit. Talk about the Israelite baby. Also, too, our people are stressed the hell out. And what do you do when you're stressed? You have sex, man. We was reproducing like crazy in Egypt. When we was under that captivity, because all the stress and shit, being in that hard slavery. In fact, during the pandemic and the lockdown, they were saying there was a term called Netflix babies. Jake was just born, just popping a woman and impregnating them, and just having kids. Esau, again, based on what I see, they don't really do that, man. Especially when I pick up at a lot of these places that they have huge houses and all that type of shit. Like, the kids are very, very young, man, while they like sort of up in age a bit, man. All right, so that baby is gonna grow up with older parents, but it's not gonna grow up a lot of times with that financial burden. Now, you might have a kid. They might have a kid, the heathens, one amongst them, all right, that squanders the college fund, become a drug addict and all that and shit, whatever. But guess what? Through connections, he can still get a job and move ahead. The uphill battle really is for our people, man. Jake is the number one consumer, all right? So we own a majority of debt. Mainly the women, too. I think they say women own 80-something% of consumer debt, because at least men are somewhat a bit more disciplined. A man could go 2-3 years wearing the same shoes. He don't give a fuck what people say. Women, they'll buy shoes. My woman is guilty of that shit. She's always buying clothes and saying, babe, I got no clothes. I'm like, what the fuck? You always ordering shit from Amazon. So women spend frivolously, man. Whereas men are a bit more cautious. We don't really, you're going to dude's place. You go to your best friend's house or whatever like that. We don't really invest too much in the home decor if we live by ourselves. But if you go to a woman's spot, even if she lives by herself, she's very invested in the home decor, the lamps and all. And a lot of that shit, she's going to IKEA, she's doing this, Home Goods. A lot of times she's doing that shit just for the look of it and don't even have the means to pay it off. So they Amazon card or something like that, you see? So a majority of people in America is in debt, and it hurts. And I'm saying it hurts because I'm a man that has consumer debt. And you know what? I feel like what it is like when you're in debt. Some far more than others. I'm pretty sure we all have a bit of debt somewhere, somehow. But when you're in a debt and it's with interest, it feels like you're drowning, but you just never fully drown to die, or you never fully stop drowning. That's how it feels, because it's like you're working your ass off. You feel like you're gonna finally get out. Something happens, you gotta borrow, or you're paying something, and the interest is. It just feel like you're in a perpetual state of just drowning, man. You see? Now things are turning somewhat for Jake. You got a lot of Jakes coming up. A lot of Jakes are understanding, like, look, man. I'm gonna go get a house, I'm gonna hand it down to my children, I'm gonna do this and that. But here's the thing now, we're already at the end of this shit, man. I'm sure if this society was to continue, Jake would figure shit out and sew up. But guess what? Esau had multi-generation head start. Imagine starting a race. Imagine starting a 100-meter race and somebody's 60 meters ahead of you. It would take you a great feat to catch up to that person, man. You see? Again, you do have certain Israelites. I see a lot of Issacharites. They come over here and all they do is just grind. Issachar don't give a fuck, man. Issachar come over here and sell ganepas on the highways or whatever and just save. Because they come from the old ways, of saving and storing up your money and getting property. That's, you go to third world countries, that's typically how it's run. But here in America, it's, it's heavy debt. It's about renting. And there's really no advantage to a person renting, because when you renting, honestly, you're just paying somebody else's mortgage, really, or leasing or whatever. But guess what? You don't have a choice in the matter. You don't have a choice in the matter. And the way this society is set up, a lot of people, for the most part, don't get to that stage till they're very old in life. And by that time you're that old, who knows what type of kids you might have. They might be demons. Hell, man, they might be out in the streets and they life get ended before yours. A lot of shit could happen in that time span, man. But this consumer debt, yeah, they have something called the debt clock. And when you look at that debt clock, that's not meant to be paid. Come on, man. The national debt's never going to be paid off. You're only going to have debt cycles of boom and bust. That's what happens when you have you see, I forgot the opposite of Keynesian. One is Keynesian, which is the debt-based society, but there's another one. I just can't remember because I haven't touched the topic in so long. But there's a society that says the GDP is going to be fueled by the labor force, and it goes like this. There's no borrowing, it's just straight labor, right? In an upward trend. God, I can't believe that. Ron Paul is an advocate of that. Not borrowing, not printing more money. There's a name for it, I just cannot remember. But anyways, the opposite of that is Keynesian. So the Ron Paul approach will go like this. Labor is in a direct correlation to the GDP of the nation. But Keynesian, with debt base, is going to be like this. It's still going to be trending upwards, but it's going to be ups and downs, meaning booms and crashes. Pretty much the crash happens when everybody's borrowing, rates are low, everybody's borrowing, because when you borrow, money is created out of thin air. And then how we use that debt, a lot of people with brains turn that debt into an asset. I'll give you an example, right? Let's say I borrow $10 from you, the viewer, all right, and no interest. I borrow $10 from you, and you say, look, I'm going to give you that $10. I'll just use an example. I'm just using the amount example. I just want to make a point. Interest rates are extremely low. I could borrow at nothing, right? So I borrow $10 from you. I'll pay it back in a month at $10 flat. But I take that $10 and I lend out $1 to 10 people, all right, at let's say 5%, right? So that's 5 cents on the dollar. I lend out $10, all right? I just made 50 cents profit in a month. So in essence, I just generated income, a net income to myself out of thin air. I borrowed $10, I issued out $1 to 10 people at 5%, at 5 cents. 5 times 10 is 50 cents. I made 50 cents out of thin air. And this sort of Keynesian way is how businesses start and all that. Now the problem, after a while, that could go good, but guess what? That type of thing could be inflated, where the proportions aren't right, man. All right? Okay? Or where I'm lending out money at rates and not getting back my return on my investment because I loaned it to people that can't pay it back. These sorts of different things. It's called bubbles. Bubbles happen, then society crashes, everything goes back down, resets itself, and goes back up. And this constant cycle is how a Keynesian debt-based society works. You know, that's how come you have these major crashes and these major bull markets and all that stuff. All right, and you could have a bull market in whatever. You could have it in stocks. You could have it in real estate. There was a bull market in our cryptocurrencies, man. It's something that is backed by nothing really, and it's burst. You see, and a lot of people lost a lot of money. The ones that know made money. So this is the wickedness of this place, man. It's all done with deceit. It's all done with manipulation. Okay, and this is not how our society is going to be run, because our society, according to the scriptures, is not going to be any usury. All right, and there's going to be years of forgiveness, man. But like I was saying, out of the hundreds of millions of Americans, all right, if they were given the option to get rid of their debt for no cost, they would. But the Satan is gonna bargain with your soul. So it's okay. Look, man, you want to be debt free. You want to start something for your kids, for your future. Here's a new system. You become a part of that system, all debts are forgiven. 1 Corinthians 2:11. Cannot be ignorant of Satan's devices, and that's an angle he could put, man. You know, there's many different angles. They can do cyber attacks, but I'm just saying that's something that is in the realm of something this devil would do, man. Because again, so much people. Because remember, the so-called white man, nothing is really done by accident. All right, these people are extremely crafty. Psalm 64. The secret councils, that these think tanks that come up with things, they don't just do things on a whim. They plan these things out decades in advance. So there's no way this whole debt crisis and the millions of Americans being in debt and then, you know, the chip being pushed up, all that stuff is orchestrated first and foremost by the Most High. But the Most High has used the rod of his anger, his whipping stick, his sword, pursuant to the book of Psalms 14 and 17, all right, so-called white man, to implement this situation, man. All right. So, term just came to my mind, Ordo ab chaos. All right, basically creating order out of chaos. And it's only so much these people can take before they start to lose it, man. Working 3-4 fucking jobs, man. All right, to pay off this, to pay off that. You know, only a very finite amount of people, okay, are living luxuriously without debt. People are saying, man, I'm tired of trying to go to a 9-to-5. Everybody's trying to find ways how to make money on their own. Create Twitch, OnlyFans, you know, all these quick ways to make money without be a content creator. Even though that shit requires a lot of consistency and work, man. It's not easy doing the same thing repetitiously week in, week out, you know. Only a few people make that much money because only really a few people do it so consistently for years in and years out. But you have people forsaking their jobs, forsaking their 9-to-5, all right, because you know why? They said, damn, I done bust my ass doing all this overtime, all this shit, and I'm walking away with 60, 65 a year, and you got a bitch sucking at a video game but got her cleavage out on Twitch. She's making triple my salary and she sucks at a video game. People are saying, wait a minute, things ain't right. You know, you got men depressed, they can't get laid, so they whatever little money they got, they're throwing at these they simping pretty much, throwing it at these women that don't deserve it. All right. So you got people like, damn, what the hell, like, you know, here it is, I'm slaving and all this debt. And then these people are making money not doing shit, you know? 19-year-old millionaires. In that whole crypto bubble, you had 19-year-old crypto millionaires. Dudes that they about to hit 20 driving in exotic cars because they just threw their money in some crypto. So people are like, wait a minute, there's other ways to make money. Now, trust me, when you gamble on yourself, it's a huge risk. High risk, high reward. All right? But high risk also comes with high failures too. So, hey man, people are trying to find different ways. So the so-called white man says, you know what? I see these people in their jams, in their situation, in their plights. let's give them this solution. And if you take that solution, all right, RFID CHIP, which is the MOTB, okay, pursuant to the book of Revelations, the 13th chapter, the 16th verse on down, then you're gonna receive the judgment of that, which is found in the following book of Revelation, the following chapter of Revelation, Revelations 14, 8, and 9. All right, you're gonna taste the wrath of the Most High's fury. All right, the wrath of the Most High's indignation. Okay, which is poured out without mixture. There's a price to pay if you take that chip, man. You know. And in the book of Matthew says, you know, what's the point of a man get the whole world just to lose his soul? You know, you people out there that have chosen the world, forsook the truth, chosen the way of immoralities and succeedance in society, ultimately to keep your assets in the distant future, all right, you will need to have that chip in you, man. And the so-called white man is already putting the majority of the world in a position to try to find an easy way out because they can't deal with the burdens, man. See? It's a beautiful thing, though. At the end of the day, it's all prophecy. You know, Proverbs 16 and 1 to 4. Primarily in the 4th verse, the Most High created the wicked for the day of evil. So this wicked-ass society, the way it's run, all right, all those things you see before you, at the end of the day, the Lord's the one that propagated everything, all right? So with that, I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahawashi, Ba'ashim Rachakadash. That belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone Trubel. Salutations to the hopefully elect out there, you Akim to Zadakim, that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. Shalom.